Welcome to the KFA Podcast, where our mission is to keep faith alive by kicking ass.
All right, Summer Miller, thank you for joining us on the KFA Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
And this is our first time meeting officially in person. And so I just want to start by learning more about you. Who is Summer Miller?
All right. Is that the question?
Yeah.
Man. Well, I'll start with a mom and a wife.
Okay.
So I've been married for 25 years. 4
Congratulations.
kids. Thank you.
That's a big milestone.
Yeah. I'm not really sure how I'm old enough to be married that long, but I am. 4 kids. We've got 2 out of the house, 2 still in the house. Almost 2 in high school. We've got 1 in middle school still, but about to be in high school. So getting close to the finish line with kids.
Yeah.
I am a avid horse person, so
Okay.
I own horses and love horses and ride competitively on a drill team in
Wow.
the area. So that's my hobby, and yeah, love doing real estate. So it's kind of a part of who I am.
For sure.
Just what I do. So.
When did you first officially get into real estate?
So 2019, January of 2019, I got my license.
Just in time
went
for
to rolling.
the craziness of
Yeah.
COVID and all the seasons.
Yep. Yeah.
What's your experience been like so far? And did you start directly on Harris's team?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I did. So a little background on that. I worked in banking for 15 years.
Okay.
And I was doing financial crimes division at U.S. Bank, doing
Okay.
project management stuff. And I just had gotten to a point where I was pretty bored.
Mm-hmm.
And just wasn't really feeling like continuing to climb the corporate ladder.
Sure.
Was in the middle of purchasing the home I live in now with Harris's team. So Harris was my real estate agent before I ever got into real estate. I think we bought at least 2 homes with him, and then we're in the process of trying to sell and buy. Maybe more than that, actually. But anyways, so we had known Harris for a long time, and my husband had worked with him doing mortgages, and just really we really liked Harris as a person. And so we were in the middle of this purchase. Yeah, that's right. In the middle of this purchase, and he had at that time built his team. So we had started working with him before he built a team. And I just remember seeing photos or updates on Facebook, and new team member added. I'm like, that should have been me. Because I had talked to him about doing real estate a long time ago, and I was just like, I don't want to. I didn't feel brave enough to step away from my job that had all of our benefits and kind of security. So I didn't make the move. But as I saw him building his team, I was like, that should be me. That should be me. And so. Anyhow, we were doing this transaction. Every person that I worked with, so we worked with multiple people on his team at that time. I just was noticing how happy they were and how much they enjoyed
Can't
their
fake
job.
that.
No, how much they enjoyed their job, and just the whole transaction it wasn't an easy transaction. There was some stuff on our side, on the buy side, that was a little bit stressful. But they just made it so easy and so comforting to go through. And I was like, you know what? I just need to do this. And so I knew if I was going to get into real estate, and I told Harris this when I talked to him, that if I make this move, I'm either going to work for you or I'm going to work for somebody else, but you want me to work for you. And I knew really in my heart I didn't want to work for anybody else.
Sure.
Or with anybody else. So just his character and stuff was a draw for me, that I was like, I want to be aligned with somebody who I know has integrity. And so anyway, I started out on his team. Thank goodness he hired me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. Well, and I think we were joking around before this, but that, is in terms of, I feel like that's the team that everybody wants to be on. I know when we had Harris on here, he was talking about how many people reach out, and it doesn't sound like, and maybe a little bit more, but you guys aren't trying to maybe grow super large in terms of more agents or anything like that.
I don't think that's the focus of our team. I think our focus is definitely servicing our clientele. And so I feel like if that grew to a point where we couldn't service them well, then it would be a focus. But I think, we are doing a pretty kick-ass job right now with
kidding.
What we have. And so,
Right. It's hard to
quality
don't change what doesn't need to be fixed.
Right.
And I'd love to learn more from your perspective, because I think Harris is a humble guy, a very humble guy, and won't toot his own horn. But being on the inside of the team and the operation, like what are some of the things that you've learned that maybe a lot of agents haven't had the pleasure to learn in this business, even maybe people who have been licensed for 10, 15, 20 years?
Man, that's a tough question. Because this is the only thing I've ever known,
sure.
right?
Yeah.
When I started in real estate. And I do realize how blessed I am that like this has been my experience. I feel like my perspective is a little bit off because I don't know any different.
Yeah.
And so,
I get that.
you know, there have been agents that I've worked with that I'm like, man, they need some training, you know, as far as like, that's never how I would do it. That's not how I learned how to do it. So
sure.
I think there's definitely some things that like are unique to Harris in the way that he trains and mentors. But it's just hard for me to even like grasp what that is because it's all I've ever known.
Yeah.
But I have learned a ton just, you know, starting in real estate. I didn't start out in sales. I wasn't doing sales.
Okay, so let's talk about that. What was your first kind of immediate experience for 6 months like?
Well, before he hired me, which is it's amazing that he even actually hired me. We were just talking at the time. He did what do you call it? Like, you know, like a call where you're like, hi, I'm a customer. What do you call
like
this?
role play?
Yeah.
Type deal?
And so, oh my gosh, it was really rough. It was bad. Like, I think I cried after we got off the phone. So I was like, I'm not going to be good at this. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. And that was so bad. And like, he was good at coaching me through it, but like, we kind of joke about it now because like the, you know, difference now and just being able to have those conversations with people, but it was bad. So just even learning like how to have that confidence and lead a conversation, and as far as like this, you know, aspect of life goes, it's been a big learning curve for me because I just didn't come from a background of sales. So, but he, you know, we do those every Monday. We, you know, talk and meet and we, you know, practice those skills, and it's amazing that it's true. You get better at what you practice.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
That I've come definitely a long ways in that. I had a lot of good people skills already. I worked in administration for a long time, so I had those kind of skills, I think. But I look back and I'm like, I don't know what he saw in me, because when I look back, I'm like, man, it was rough. Like, I was
but the skills can be trained, right?
Yeah.
The type of person, the quality of their character can't. And so I'd imagine that's probably why.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to talk a little bit about last year, and because a lot of realtors had a tough time. A lot of just professionals in this business struggled. I only get to see the highlights on, you know, and it seems like you guys were doing pretty good, selling a lot of homes still. But what was last year like for you? Were there challenges that maybe you hadn't faced before?
I mean, I think for everybody, you know, there were some different challenges, obviously, with the rates kind of going, you know, skyrocketing almost felt like overnight.
Yeah.
A lot of the people that were, you know, wanting to become home buyers had to back out because they just, you know, felt like they couldn't afford the payments or whatever it was. And I think it's
some
just
bigger hurdles and obstacles.
Yeah. You know, for even just me, you know, for my clients, like, I'm bummed for them, you know, that they can't like make that dream come true because of the situation with, you know, rates and stuff. So that was, you know, always a challenge, and just having to watch people be disappointed and just kind of feel like, ugh, this isn't going to happen for me. Like, I think that's a challenge. But, you know, I think our team is so like connected. You know, we're a small team. We're like family.
Totally.
I got asked the other day, like, why be on a team? And it was like, why not? Like, we're so close. We're like a family. So we just really stayed connected. So through even a lot of those challenges where it was like, yeah, things might be slower, you know, we have maybe buyers backing out or whatever, or just kind of stepping away from the market for now. Yeah. I think the you know, the biggest thing was just staying positive, like, through that.
Right.
It really didn't feel like a bad year. Yeah. I mean, it didn't really feel like a bad year. I mean, I know it was slower and it was, you know, less people, but like buying, but I think, personally, I had a lot of stuff going on personally too. My daughter got married last year in the summertime, and so that it honestly was like kind of nice, like to not have as much to juggle, and so.
Well, then the season prior, and that's kind of where I was leading to also, like, and I want to focus on this because from the time you started, it's been kind of like a whipsaw of different. Like you saw the polarity in two vastly different markets and techniques and objections, and I mean, so do you think that the season beforehand was a little bit more challenging with so many offers, the craziness, COVID?
I mean, honestly, personally, I feel like it probably was. It was less normal. Like it was, very much. It felt like a race.
Totally
So
know what
it's
you
just
mean.
like, we gotta like do this, we gotta do this, we gotta do this, and now it feels like you can take your time a little bit more with people and help them make decisions that they want to make, not because they're like, ooh, I really need to. I mean, I think that the people who bought in, well, I know like clients of mine who bought in say 2019, they're like, thank God I bought in 2019, and
it seems to be the reoccurring occurrence. I don't know if that's but I mean, everybody seems like, I wish I would have. I wish I would have, because the market's been doing that.
Yeah. But. So, and even the people that, I hope that bought in, 2020, 2021, 2022, they're thankful that they bought even then, even though it was a little bit crazier of times. But yeah, I think personally it was a little bit more challenging. The race.
And it can get tiresome, and it's really difficult sometimes when you have clients that their budget doesn't allow them to go so much higher, and you have to keep their energies up a little bit through disappointment. But I will say this, I think being on this team that you're on probably helps a lot in that and competitive environment, because it does matter who's on the other side of that transaction, and everybody loves working with Harris and everybody on their team, on his team. So
it's definitely, that is 100% true. I had one where I was having a hard time getting an agent to like talk to me,
really?
And so I was like, I think he was going through some stuff and he was busy, and then he didn't hear my introduction. Like when I call somebody, I'm like, this is Summer from Harris Realty Group of Keller Williams. And he didn't actually hear me say that. But then once he figured out that I was on Harris's team, it was like a totally different agent. And I was like, thank you, Harris. Thank you so much. But he was like, oh, I love Harris. Like they were buddies.
Yeah.
He was like, oh yeah, we'll make this work. We'll make this work. And I was like, we could have made it work even if it was just me, if I would have been on another team. Like the client had the means to make whatever he needed to work, but he, it wasn't like, I got more attention once he knew like I was with Harris's team. So
I think that's just a testament to how much he's helped so many people selflessly in this business.
Yep.
I mean, he helped. I was 18 years old, and I had lost 2 listing appointments in a row. The only 2 I had lost at the time, and they were both to Harris. And so I had heard a lot about Harris, and so I called him up, and he met me for coffee. And at that time, it was probably the first time I realized, like, because I would look at people like, you're my competition, and I'm a competitive, come from sports and all of that, but he sat down and not just gave me time, but like shared his playbook with me, and it like opened my eyes to, wow, like collaboration really is important, and the people who are selflessly sharing their playbook and just wanting to see others succeed. I mean, there's a reason why, why the team is so respected. So,
I think that's one of his biggest, just one of the things I like most about him is that he loves seeing people around him succeed. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you're in competition with him or not. Like it's just something that drives him, and like he loves to see that, and it's very genuine. And
totally.
Goes clients, competition, people on his team, friends, whatever it is. Like that's just something that it comes from within.
It's just you can't fake that. It's just a core value characteristic.
Yeah, and that kind of stuff is contagious.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like being around
100%.
people like that is contagious. So I think is a big reason why our team is successful. Because we kind of have that wish for all of our clients, even and then just the people around us. Like it's they say unhappiness is contagious and happiness is contagious, and it's true. It's like that positive spirit, that giving and being generous with your time, with your gifts, and with your talents and skills. Like it's definitely contagious. Like I think I've become a more giving person just being around Harris
Wow.
more. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. And I think it's probably the greatest compliment to him that a past client not only keeps coming back, but comes and works with them. And what are your guys's, I guess both, I would love to hear about team too, but your like personal goals. I mean, it doesn't even have to be business, but like for 2024, I mean, can't believe it's already February, but what are your big goals this year?
I mean, my motto this year was to take every opportunity.
Yeah.
So last year, like I said, I had a lot of stuff that was going on. I had a really heavy competition schedule with my drill team, and then my daughter getting married and stuff. So we had a lot of stuff going on last year. My grandpa who lived with us passed away. So there was just a lot.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. And anyway, so it was, there were opportunities that I passed up last year just because I didn't really have the time for it,
sure.
Personally. And so this year my motto is, to, I have a few different, but just take every opportunity. So if something comes across my desk or on my phone or, to me, it's been really, I'm just trying to grab all those opportunities.
Yeah. Stay in curiosity, kind of see where it goes. And,
yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, honestly, that's just kind of the heart of my goals this year. I mean, if we're talking overview of goals, and really, I have a sticky note that I put on my whiteboard at my desk that's like, in 6 months from now, you can either have excuses or results. And so that's what I just look at every single day.
Yep.
And, it can be hard to stay motivated sometimes to put the work in and to do the activities that it requires to be successful in this business. And, there's days where you don't feel like talking to anybody.
Right.
But, seeing that on my whiteboard, it's like, yep, I don't want to have excuses. I want to have results. So it's just
just staying consistent on those days where you don't always feel like putting in the hard work. What are your, I guess, pillars of business, and what are those activities like for you that you must stick to
it's been, it's been a little different each year that I've been in the business because the business has changed a lot every season. So this year I'm really focusing on knowing more people and just being in front of people, getting to know, more people through either just, I mean, I'm pretty connected through the horse world. So I do a lot of social stuff. I'm pretty social. So I like to go out and meet people and stuff like that. So that's just something that I'm taking more opportunities. Like if it comes across my desk again, I'm like, okay, I'll go to that function or I'll go to that. Just meet more people, get to know people differently, ask more questions and, get to know people in a different way. So being in front of people, just making, a phone call a week even, a small goal. I don't always do that. And so this, sometimes it's like, I don't even have time to think. I have,
a phone call to people you care about?
Yeah, people I care about. Maybe it's a friend or maybe it is a past client and I have an opportunity that I want to run by them, it really will depend on the week kind of, but it's at least talking, I'm so much I want to text people that this year I've been nope, you got to make a phone call. You got to actually talk to a real person. And so it's so hard sometimes.
I love how Harris put me on to the whole voice notes and, and once he started doing it, I was like, okay, that's actually not that weird. Yeah. And so I'm with you though on the phone call thing. And I think for me, sometimes it's I'm so busy and what if this conversation goes for 30 minutes? Yeah. But retraining yourself, no, it's actually a good thing to be able to have long conversations with people you care about. I've been doing more of that too. For me, it's more every morning. It's usually when I'm driving on my way to work. I wouldn't say maybe it's not really a prayer, but I'm more just go who comes to my mind, and not scripted, not off a sheet of my 100 relationships that I need to touch or whatever. Just who's coming to my mind. And man, some really cool things have come from that. Just calling someone and they're like, you're not going to believe this, but whatever the scenario is. And that I was just thinking about you, or this timing is crazy. That stuff's starting to trip me out a little bit.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have maybe as much time, even just trying to drop a voice note and send it to someone.
Yeah, I think that personal touch of either Harris is big on videos too.
Yeah.
So when I first started doing this, I was like, oh, nobody wants to see my face. I don't want to send a video. then I got to put makeup on, like all the excuses, right? Like this is not, I don't want to do this, but it does make a difference. I feel like, like that little bit of a personal touch, and even with the voice memo, like we've gotten so used to just texting and having that just be our main mode of conversation, and it is easy and it's fast and it's like, it works. But I think there is something, to get back to that more personal side of people. Like, I think that's, important. So I think that's awesome that you're doing that. And
I'm trying to. It's always so difficult when it's not on your calendar, when you're busy, when you're going 100 miles an hour. Yeah. But yeah, and like for me, it's honestly more personal relationships, like my grandparents, and less business relationships. But so I want to learn more about is it equestrian? I don't know much about horses. My wife is huge into horses. I've always told her I grew up on a quad, not a horse. So, but I want to, can you share more about how you got into that? Like, I'd love to know all the things.
Yeah. Okay. So I grew up, my grandpa was a rancher, a cattle rancher. And so I kind of grew up in that world, but my parents divorced. And so we kind of like pulled away, but I was always the kid who was like trying to find a way to be around horses. Yeah. And so it wasn't until I was a teenager that I really got back into being around horses regularly. Through my now husband, his dad had horses, and we were dating, and so
you guys started dating when you were teenagers?
Yeah, 16.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been together forever.
Yeah, so. I met my wife sophomore year of high school. So
yeah, I mean, it works.
We're hitting 10 years this year.
Yeah.
So not married. No. But yeah.
That's a long time.
Oh man, but so. And you competitively, like, what does that look like?
Yeah,
and
so
treat me like someone who does not know anything about this world.
Okay, so it was about, I think this is my 4th year on the team. So it's actually started out with my daughter. This is my daughter's fault, really.
Oh, really?
Because my oldest daughter, she's 22 now, but when she was in high school, I had gotten back into horses, started leasing, and then so you can rent a horse, basically. If you're into that side of things. Sure. But it was like the way for me to like get connected back with that like piece of me that I felt like was missing, because I had like raised my kids, and I mean, not all the way, but spent like probably 15 years not doing anything horse related, and I was like, I need to get back to that. It's like a piece of me that I feel like is missing. And so I started out that way. Then we bought a horse, and then we got another horse, and then it just snowballed from there. But now we live on a ranch with a 6-stall barn and 4 horses.
The whole lifestyle.
Yeah. Don't ask him questions about this, because his story will be a lot different. But anyways, he's, he has to do all the farm work, and he doesn't get all the fun stuff. So, but anyway, so competition, I joined the team 4 years ago. My daughter started out doing high school equestrian. And so high school equestrian, they do like all the events. They do cattle, sorting, daubing. They do like performance events, so like reining and like horsemanship, and they do in-hand stuff, and so they do like a whole, they have jumping, and like they kind of represent like all of the facets of like equestrian world that you can compete in. And one of those was drill, and so she joined the drill team, and I was like fascinated with it. It's just so cool, and so I was like, oh, that's really cool, I want to do that. I joined another team at the time when she was doing high school, and it was really hard to do my thing and her thing. Like high school equestrian was really time consuming. So anyhow, she graduated, and you have to be 18 to even try out for this team that's local. So it's called Latigo and Lace, and they've been around for probably, I think we're maybe 30 years in or something like that. It started out as a girls' youth team, so some of the girls are still on the team that started out on it at 10 years old or something like that.
And just kept it going.
Yeah. So anyway, so it's like a 6-week tryout process.
Wow.
Yep. And it's 2 hours every Tuesday night. You're on horseback, and it was a pretty rigorous. And the year that her and I tried out together, so we waited until she graduated, and then we tried out together. There was, I think, 3 spots, and there were like 6 people trying out. Okay. And so it was pretty like competitive, and it was intense, really intense. And anyway, so her and I did end up making it on the team together. So that was
that could have been awkward.
Yeah, definitely. Like I knew though, honestly, she's better much better than I am.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and so I knew, like, she's definitely a shoe-in for the team. Like,
Sure.
and I wanted her to make it, you know, and I would have been sad if I hadn't made it, but it was really exciting that we made it. And then one of my best friends was also trying out at the time, so it was like I was like competing with her too. So she also made it. So it was pretty.
Couldn't
cool.
Worked out better. Then.
Nope. Yeah, it was.
Are you guys all
like,
on
perfect.
the team still?
So my daughter is no longer on the
Okay.
team. So she knew she was getting married last year, so she stepped down.
Gotcha.
So we rode together, I think, for 2 seasons, and that was really special, really cool.
Yeah.
And then she stepped down when the year that she knew she was going to get married and wanted to focus on that, which I love, and that's good for her. So, my friend is still riding on the team too, so we're still doing it. So it's
Has this blossomed into you doing some equestrian properties?
Yeah, definitely.
Specialty?
I mean, that's kind of like my jam. Like I love, you know, property and, you know, helping people that have acreage. I get it. I understand what it takes to have a functional.
And it's a total niche, like for sure.
Yeah. So I've done a few. I'd love to do more. I've done a few equestrian properties, and it's definitely something I have a passion for and love, and would love to do more of. And so.
But I mean, you have the network, so I'm sure that you're bound to continue
for sure.
serving those clients. And I just want to kind of rewind a little bit, and I'd love to hear like some of the challenging moments, because obviously everything we could go on and on about how awesome I'm sure your experience is on the team, but like in real estate, we know there's tons of highs and lows and difficult moments, tough conversations. Can you think of the most challenging thing you've faced so far?
I mean, I'm like a deep feeler, so like you know, like when something's like going south, I feel it like pretty deeply. So Harris knows. So I mean, there's been some challenging stuff. I'm trying to think of like anything that stands out. I mean, probably, you know, it never is fun when you have a client that's like, I need to make a rescission, or you know, things like that. For me, honestly, like I think it's just like being rejected is like I will stew on that for days. If something doesn't work out, or if I feel like there's a weird vibe with a client that I just closed on, and I'm like, why? Like what? Like I think I did everything right. Those are to me the most challenging things, like the conversations I have with my clients, and I really feel like for me they're pretty easy to navigate. I actually had a client today that felt like they needed to step back away from the transaction, and like that stuff I don't ever take personally. It's just like, hey, you know, what is there a problem here that we can solve for you? If so, let me try to solve the problem for you, and if not, that's okay. And like, so I don't get that, you know, attached to the outcomes necessarily. It's more like the personal side of it for me, where I'm like, do they like me, or they, you know, do they want to work with me again?
Sure.
And the majority of my clients, definitely, like I have like really good vibe with, but there's that like, you know, once a year you get that client, they're just like, what did I do? Or the weird ones that, you know, you're like, I probably avoided it. Yeah, that you just like feel like I've had a few of like just interesting, like maybe they would have locked me in their trunk and like you know, like
there's
that was
some weird
probably
people out there for
so
sure.
Those ones, you know, but I find those kind of entertaining. So the challenging stuff for me is more so like, is everything like good? Are we good? Like it's the interpersonal stuff that like I just
why are they ghosting
happy.
me? Stuff like that.
Yeah, that kind of stuff.
I get that.
It's
I remember I was probably only a few months in the business. I started when I was 18, so I was real young. I still look at my picture now and I'm like, who in the world trusted me with this? Like that's crazy. I was so young. But I remember there was a client, and it was one of like the few buyers I had, and so I was driving all the way down to Beaverton to show them homes. I knew nothing about Beaverton in the area, and I made so many trips down there for like probably 4 or 5 months, and then they had called me up and they told me on the phone, they were like, yeah, we're gonna go with a different realtor. We just think you're too young. And I replied real quickly and I said, well, I'm 5 months older than when you started working with me. Like, what the heck? You know how much gas I've wasted. But yeah, like that hit me for a long time, because it was so early. But from that moment, I've never had anybody say that to me before. But it hurt because it was like, man, am I going to be able to do this if this is what people think?
Especially something you don't have any control over.
Right. Yeah.
You
And I'm
can't
pretty sure I lied to him too and said I was like, they asked me my age. I was like, I'm almost 21. Like 18's pretty close to 21, right? Almost there.
The
Almost
thing.
there.
Yeah.
Like that made any difference. But so probably more on the personal side for challenges and just feeling like you want to, maybe if a client doesn't like I'm sure there's probably not many clients who actually didn't like you or anything like that, but just the questioning of what did I do something wrong?
Yeah, or the deals that you don't get, the listing appointments that you lose through the other realtor, like, well, what did they do, that I didn't do? I've had some of those where, like I remember a property one, and this was, I think, during COVID, and I wore a mask to the appointment. And the other agents that got it didn't wear a mask, and I knew that was why they got the deal.
Gosh.
Like, I knew it, and I was like,
yes, that season was so weird.
Yeah,
I do remember that too.
It bothered me, but I was like, it is what it is. Like, it just, there's,
Well, that was such a weird thing too, because like we're taught to kind of mirror and match and build rapport that way, and you'd show up to your first appointments with people you don't know. And it's like, do I wear it or not? Yep. And people are so polarized around this stupid topic.
Yep.
Oh man, that hurts. Yeah, I get that. But what are some of the best things you've overcome so far? I know you were talking about scripts and stuff like that, but just like where have you experienced the most growth where maybe you thought that you wouldn't be able to do it?
I think confidence in my abilities. Like I said, I didn't come from a sales background at all, and I've always been successful at whatever I did for work or whatever, but this was very new to me, and just not coming. I was worried when I started, like, what if I'm not good at this? And like everybody was like patting me on the back and being like, you're gonna do great, you're gonna be so good at this, and I was pretty sure I'd be okay, but I also didn't know, and I was like, what if I'm not? And then all these people are like, how come you suck? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because I had, I remember having a conversation with my husband, because like I was so stressed out about the test. Like, I was so stressed out about the test, and now I look back and I'm like, that was kind of a silly thing to be stressed out about. And I passed my first time, and then but I remember crying because I was like so stressed out, and I was like, will you still love me if I don't pass? Like, and he was like, of course.
Yeah, babe, you can retake it for another, it's just $100.
Yeah. So, but it was just that feeling of like going into something I didn't know, not being confident in my skill set, and just not really knowing what to expect. Like I am somebody who likes to know what's coming, what to expect, that kind of thing. So not knowing what to expect, I think those, my confidence, I think, has definitely been the thing that's probably grown the most. Just, and also I think when I first started, Harris can attest to this, because I'd be like, wow, what if they ask this question? What if they ask this question? What if they ask this question? And he'd be like, you just answer them. But I think I was in my head a lot of like, what if they ask something that I don't know the answer to?
Yeah. And
then I look stupid, and they don't want to work with me because I don't know the answer to that, because I don't have the experience, that he has. And so, I don't feel like those times ever even came. It was more of a thing in my head that I was afraid of happening, but it didn't really ever happen. And, this is a hard business to be like, well, I don't know, let me ask somebody else.
Sure.
Like, it's, in my other careers, like, I could do that so easily. Like, I don't know the answer to that,
you don't
but
want to fake it either and give them something that...
Right. And that's not who I am. So
about.
I was like, what do I do in that case? Like, I don't know, so it isn't the easiest business to be like, I'm not sure about that. It really, too, depends on the clientele that you're working with sometimes, too. Like, you really have to read the people. That's another area of growth, like reading people and knowing people better.
Right.
Harris is great at that, and he's great at coaching how to do that. And so I think, getting a better feel for who it is you're working with and what their needs are has been an area of real growth for me. Just, being able to figure that out pretty quickly in a conversation and being like, okay, this is what they need from me, and this is what I'll provide for them. that's not something that I knew about before.
Yeah. Well, no, and it's really cool because I experienced that same thing, just being young. Like, I'm way more confident in all areas of my life now because I was 18 trying to convince a 45-year-old to sell with me. Like, and I mean, it's not something you plan for, but it's cool to see who you become in the process too.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Any last words of wisdom to maybe your fellow realtors in our community who have been struggling? Any pieces of advice for those people? Because there's a lot of people hurting still.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest advice that I would give is just surround yourself with positivity. Like, keep around the people who are positive influences in your life. Steer clear of like naysayers and the negativity. I think that can bring you down so fast. Like, even just listening to some podcast that's like, this is what's going to happen, you know, and it looks like it's like not a good outcome, or
no, it's like a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, it is. And I think just staying positive, and, you know, I know it sounds very cliche, and it's, you know, but it's so true. Like, being around the people that you surround yourself, you know, that are your influence, that's who you become like. So I'd say you need to really surround yourself with people who encourage you and are positive, and then do the activities, like do the work, you know, like don't have the excuses, don't say you're too busy, don't, you know, there's a million things that we all could say and do to keep ourselves from actually being productive. For sure. But I think actually just doing it, even if it's hard, you know, like.
Well, and I think like one thing that's tough for some people is it might not even be that they're surrounded by the wrong people, but maybe they're going at this alone. And I know you don't have the experience of being like a solo realtor, but it can get lonely. And when deals are falling apart or you're going through a tough stretch, I think where people start like not taking action is when they start thinking in their head, like, what's the point? You know, I mean, and then they start going down that path of, you know, it didn't work last time, and the last 100 people I called or whatever, it's not moving the needle, so what's the point? And then they almost like kind of silently gave up ahead of time.
Yeah, so true.
But I mean, I love that you said that, because as far as a community, we're very big on that. Like, what we're trying to do with KFA is create more unity and more people to lean on, especially for the people who don't have an amazing team that they're already on, of people that they naturally just get the benefit of leaning on each other and supporting each other. But I agree.
Yeah, I think there are those agents out there too who've been in the business for, you know, a long time, who would love to be, you know, a support to somebody who's maybe, you know, struggling or newer in the business. So like, seek those people, and, you know, they'll come to you if you're looking for that. Like, I feel like if you're looking for that, it will happen for you. And
I think a lot of people are either too scared, or maybe their ego doesn't let them ask for help, and just be a little bit more vulnerable when they are struggling. Because I do agree, you know, the more we've been doing this, the more realtors I've met, the more people I've been involved around, just even through the past year of what we're doing with KFA, the more I realize there's a lot of people out here who would love to help, and if they only knew you needed it.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's good. Awesome. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. That was I didn't die, so.
No.